Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our discussion, a new leash on T1D Life. We are here tonight with Stephanie from Michael's Angel Paws. And really quickly, Stephanie, before we jump in, I'm just going to take a moment to introduce myself, and then I'll let you give yourself a little introduction. So everyone, I am Tara Winkleman. I'm the Director of Programs for the Nevada and California Diabetes Association. I've been type 1 diabetic for 36 years. This will be my 37th in August. And I have been working at the Nevada Diabetes Association for 10 years. We run these programs with our friends in the North and the South. We joined together to bring everybody in one spot virtually during this pandemic, and we're hoping to keep these videos going throughout the year. So Stephanie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And why don't you give yourself a little introduction and tell us how you became involved with the Nevada Diabetes Association?
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Tara, for bringing me on here. It's always fun to share our puppies and to help anybody out in the community give that information. I'm Steph, the director of Michael's Angel Paws. We've been going on about, I think, 8 years we started this this program. We started it based on my husband and I, we lost a son who would have needed a service dog. And so this is created for his legacy. And of that, we started with just service dogs, and it's kind of turned into medical alert dogs. We do the diabetics, we do seizure alert, blood pressure drops, all sorts of things. So that's kind of what we've been up to the last 8 years. And we've got about 6 or 7 trainers that support us and a new director of development and outreach working with us now. So we are on to bigger and better things.
Wonderful. Growing is always a good thing.
Yes. We've been blessed to be supported by our local community.
So tell us a little history behind Michael's Angel Paws and how you guys actually did get started.
So it's before Epi loses himself off the thing. You okay, buddy?
Hi, Epi. Everyone, this is Epi. He is joining us tonight.
Let me see if I can get him set up. You get up. Don't fall. There you go. All right, let me get him back up. Epi, up. Can you turn around? Sit. Say hi, Epi. This is Epiduo. So Epi's actually a 2-year-old border collie that, believe it or not, was trained actually as a diabetic alert dog for his dad. And his daddy actually passed away a couple months ago. And his dream for him was to, if Epi had it in him, to continue his training and to help somebody else. And actually, he is going to be paired with his boy in the next couple of weeks.
That's wonderful news.
Yes. So, and in that, so we've transitioned him from being a diabetic alert dog actually to a seizure alert dog, which is very similar. We just changed the nose to a different scent. So, yeah. So anyways, we started Michael's Angel Paws about 8 years ago. I myself have been a dog trainer for 15 years. Always had a love for service dogs. Even as a kid, I always asked my parents if I could raise service dogs. I always told me no. Because they were afraid I couldn't handle giving the dog up. Little did they know where I would end up down the road.
That's what I can do.
Yeah, exactly. So I had the chance to be part of the Moore Park College Exotic Animal Training Management Program out of Southern California. I graduated that program, oh gosh, I hate to admit, probably 15, 20 years ago. And in that process, I worked with all the canines there. So I was like the canine guru of the Moore Park College. And graduated there, met my husband, moved to Vegas, worked with several dog training companies out here. And then we found out we were pregnant with our first son. And then we found out he had some major medical maladies that did not allow for the quality of life. And he actually would never be able to come home and visit his 2 sisters at the time, which was his 2 4-legged sisters. And so we, at that point, just decided it was just not his thing to be part of this earth. And he was born, and he is now our angel. We always remember him as his angel birthday. So it was never a death day or a birthday, but his angel day, because it was the day he gained his wings. And so
beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. So my husband, Michael came to him. So he really wanted to name the son Michael. And then a friend of mine was very generous and gave me a scholarship to go to school to get my service dog training at Bergen University. And she had always called me her angel. And we still when she was alive, we this day we laughed. I'm like, boy, do I have you fooled. And then she said she always was our angel and their paws, because the paws, the angels are really the 4-legged dogs that we get the thing with. So,
so Michael, tie it all together.
Exactly. So Michael's Angel Paws was in memory of my son. and a memory of Susan, who helped me get to this goal in my life. And but now it's expanded, and now we have about 150 teams that we have certified over the last 8 to 9 years. We've got another 60 in the program that do all sorts of different things throughout town. So yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
So can we discuss a little bit about the process of getting a diabetic alert dog?
So the process of getting a diabetic alert dog or a service dog, I know they call them dad dogs, diabetic alert dogs, in the diabetic world. In our world, we call them all they technically should be called assistance dogs because they do assist the person in their medical, whatever it may be. Unfortunately, it gets paired with the word service, and it's just kind of a weird connotation just because they're not serving us, but they do assist us with our medical. Because when somebody calls me and says, hey, I'm interested in a service dog, I go, great, that's fantastic. They have 3 options when they come to us, which is very unusual for most organizations. One, they can either, if they have a dog that's of appropriate age and temperament, they can take their own dog and turn it into a service dog under our guidance. The other one is the second one, which is where we can help them find a rescue dog or a breeder's dog. And that, of course, meets our age and our temperament requirements that we do. And then those 2 ones are usually the most popular because you will actually take part in the raising and the training of your service dog under our guidance. And then the third one is probably what most people are used to and more familiar with is a fully trained service dog, where you go to an agency, it's been fully trained, it's been puppy raised by somebody, then it's been professionally trained by a trainer like myself in an agency, and then it's matched with an individual based on that individual's personality and the dog's personality, because the personalities do have to melt. Because the biggest thing that we're looking for when we begin with the service dog is there's a bond between the dog and the human. So once we determine which route you want to go, we have you fill out an application. We go through the application process. We do require a doctor's note, or at least a letter of recommendation from the doctor. And we just do that because we want to know that the doctor is on board with adding one more thing to your toolbox. Just because you get a diabetic alert dog does not mean you get rid of your pump. You don't check your insulins. You don't do any of those things. You don't check your A1Cs, any of that. It's just something else that we add to part of your toolbox. So in case something malfunctions with your pump, the dog can actually, usually 9 times out of 10, they'll detect it better. But it's just one more area of backup and just one more tool we add into your medical toolbox. And you guys know more about diabetes than I will ever need to know.
We actually use the word toolbox a lot, so that's perfect. Yes, awesome. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So then you go through the toolbox. We determine, we have you go through the application process. I review it. I'll sit down, review it, make some notes. What's pretty nice about our diabetic alert box is pretty straightforward because we just have to know, what the doctor wants you at. We're gonna do with it your lowest. We're gonna go 20 above that lowest, so it's before you have any medical stuff that the dog can still alert you. And then once we've got the application, if you have a dog, we'll actually sit down with the nice use of media that we've all learned how to use during this pandemic. Is we actually sit down and we have a virtual Zoom lesson with you. We'll just do a virtual get to know each other, go through another series of questions. I always like to put a face to a name. I feel like there's so much of a connection because we ask you a lot of medical questions. And I just think it doesn't help to have a connection if I'm answering these questions over the phone. And we get to know the family. And because ultimately we know that when we connect with you, depending on what route you go, you're going to get sick and tired of this space because we're going to spend the next 18 to 24 months together. It's either going to be happy face or sad face, whatever one you choose. And that's what we're looking for. It's a commitment on not only your end, but it's a commitment on our end. And that first 6 months of when you have that dog, there's a lot of commitment. There's phone calls, there's text messages, there's emails, there's 2:00 in the morning phone calls. Like, what do I do? And then you kind of get into the gist of things and how things are going on and go through that. And if you have a dog, then we'll actually temperament test that dog. We actually do a home check too as well. And it's not to invade your privacy. We just need to know that the dog has a safe environment. It's just our job, or our number one job, is when we come in to be part of your family for that period of time, is we want to make sure the dog has a good home. He's well taken care of. Because just as you have any other medical equipment in you, you make sure you've got your insulin, you make sure you've got your pump and all that stuff. The dog needs to make sure that he's being well taken care of. His diet is good. He's not overweight, things like that. And that's what we're there to do, kind of get the whole picture when it comes to that. And then we'll actually ask you to take part in our basic obedience class. And that's a 5-week class where we work on your sits, your downs, your stays, loose leash walking. And then from there, we actually connect you with one of our trainers. And that trainer will work with you on a weekly basis to begin more advanced levels of obedience, public access skills, and then the course of scent training that we begin. And that scent training is where we actually use your saliva samples. And so we'll actually send you a protocol of actually how to get saliva samples. And if you've ever been to the dentist, we actually use you. I'm trying to figure out how this camera works. Me and the computers are not doing. But you actually get test samples like this. So when you actually have the numbers that we need, we'll actually have you insert this in your mouth and kind of fill that up. So we actually get your samples that way. Huh. And then we'll you to freeze them and all sorts of stuff, because we'll actually to freeze them, to date them. And that way we have exactly hard samples right there. So actually get the numbers that we want the dog alerting on. And then we also get you to get your regular glucose levels, sugar levels, so that the dog understands when they actually need to alert. And then from there,
that is a lot of steps.
Yes, yeah, it's not, and it's hard because a lot of people think they see these dogs out in public. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're well trained. I'm like, all they did was slap a vest on a dog. Oh no, there's been tears, there's been frustration, there's been moments of joy. They're like, Steph, I can't do it. I'm like, just keep going, keep going, keep going. We've become more like coaches and cheerleaders half the time. And then you have these breakthrough moments, and that's kind of where the beauty of all of this comes is, watching the team work together to develop. And then you get to the point where you're like, oh, my Tuesdays at 2:00 are ready to graduate. And you're like, oh, there goes my Tuesdays at 2:00. And you fledge them. So, but yeah, and after our teams graduate, they still keep in contact with us. And we do follow-ups with them and make sure everything's going good. Because even though you graduate the program, doesn't mean you're done with training. We always want you to make sure that everything changes, your health changes, and if we need to add any additional tools to that to help you further with helping with your diabetes, or something comes along, we're unable to do things, then we can help you train that dog to do other things for you too as well.
Wow, that was a lot.
I know, it's not like,
no, that's amazing.
A service dog, it's an investment, and it's not just go get a dog out of the pound, slap a vest on it. It's a huge commitment, and that's what we tell parents is when we have people call, they're like, my kid was just diagnosed with diabetes, and I said I am so sorry, but I said what I want you to do is I want you to focus on your child's health or your health for a good year before you even think about adding in something else. You need to understand your new normal before we go in and we add another thing. Your life has just changed with having someone diagnosed with diabetes. And I can tell you our life's changed. My husband was diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic, and we're still checks his A1Cs, but we don't have the insulin yet. And that's what we're hoping that we don't have to do. But our whole life's changed drastically. Our diet changed, everything in our family changed, all of us. And it was good. I mean, we all needed to get healthy. It was good. But I mean, we did a drastic change. And that's what I want people to understand is that you've had this now, understand your new normal with your new medical diagnosis, and then bring in the service dog or the diabetic alert dog to help you assist that. And with parents, it's that first year, so I've never been through it, so I don't know what it is, but I've heard stories where it can be very scary, and we've trained kids that are getting ready to go to college, and the parents are like, oh my gosh, what do we do at night? And we've trained dogs to actually go to college with their kids.
Yeah.
So that when those highs, because the scary part for a diabetic is at night, because you don't feel those lows.
Right.
And so that's when it's nice to have a service dog, the assistance dog, trained to do that, because they can alert them and they understand what they need to alert to. And then if the kid's not getting up, that dog is trained to go to the parent and get the parent's attention and bring them back so that the mom, that mom or dad can check it and get them back to where they need to be. So that's a long one.
So earlier you mentioned you could train your own dog. So what kind of breed makes the best service dog, or what's the word I'm supposed to use? Alert dog?
Dogs or diabetic alert dogs. Yeah. As far as breeds, I don't want to breed typify, just like, we don't want to do that. What we mostly look for is the temperament of the dog. We want a dog that scientifically, when we're looking at them on our perspective as a dog trainer and professional, we call them low arousal dogs. And in layman's term, I call it a couch potato dog, that they're up when you're up, down when you're down. They have enough energy to do something. A lot of people think that, I'm going to go get a service dog. I need to get the most active dog. Ooh, don't go the other way. Leave the active dogs for the police dogs.
Okay.
Yeah, because you want a dog that is down when you're down, up when you're up, but also on that is very what, we almost want to call bomb proof, that if something happens, they just look at you like, oh, that's nice, and go back to sleeping. But But on the other token, we have to, if you want your diabetic alert dog to be going to school with your child or yourself, you just need to be aware of people's stipulations. You know, there's dogs out there that get a bad rap. Not that they're bad dogs, they just have, people have certain connotations built into their brains.
Right.
So a lot of times what you see, what we look for is, and everyone sees your Goldens, your Labs, the Shepherds were real popular. Those have kind of gone away over there. The oodles and doodles of foodles of whatever they are these days. Those are the golden doodles. I call them oodles and doodles because I can't keep up with all the breeds they've been coming out with. It's like, oh, all right, sure, there's a new one. Is that we just want to make sure they're, you know, we're looking for one that is wants to please you. We call it neoteny. So we look for a dog that's got like childlike characteristics because they want to please you. And those are typically your floppy eared dogs. Like Epi's a really good example of that. Epi, come here. Up, up. Good boy. Good job, handsome pants. So he's got the nice floppy ears. So he actually likes to spend most of his time pleasing and earning lots of treats. Good boy. Oh, did you drop it again?
I like earning lots of treats too. So
where's your pointy eared dogs, your shepherds that everybody likes? They're more of like, I call them the terrible teenagers. They're always trying to push your buttons. And when you yourself have a disability, the one last thing you want to do is a dog that's constantly like pushing your buttons. You already have enough to do with. The dog is there to help you, benefit you for the most part. If you choose to train your own service dog, yes, I will tell you the 6 to 9 months will be like, what did I just get myself into? But we will be there to coach you and guide you. Like, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll connect you with other teams here. You know, we're based locally in Las Vegas, but we've got a wide group of teams out here that, you know, sometimes if we've got other kids that need support, we're like, hey, why don't you come join us with this lesson? And you can see where you'll be in 9 months. So it gives them hope that This is where you're going to be. Just put in the effort. And then it just makes one more connection, because this is all about making connections and meeting other people that have similar disabilities and just creating a relationship and a friendship. And that's, you know, honestly, at the end of the day is, you know, can make a friendship with the dog and make friends with everybody else. So,
now, Stephanie, can you have a service dog and another dog in the same household?
Yes.
There's no conflict there. There's no, okay.
So the only conflict, it depends, like when you bring a dog in, it's, you know, when, if you bring a puppy in, we always want to make sure that the pups in the house will get along with each other. So we'll go through a specific protocol that we do of introducing puppies properly when we bring a new dog into the house. As far as, I mean, I've got 2 dogs at my house, and they're like, I think they're excited when he leaves because they're like, oh. So the dogs understand, because these dogs, when, you know, it's a misconception. They're like, oh, well, they're always working. Yes, they're always working, but they also get to be dogs. I know when he's been out working for the day with me, because I'd be bopping around with my own lessons, that he comes on, vest comes off, and he's like tackling Leo, my golden, who actually a career change dog that failed the program.
I'm done with work and now it's time to play.
So now I get to play. But at the same time, if my husband's level dropped, he would go over and like stare at my husband. It took us kind of a while to figure that out. It was like, oh, you're alerting. Oh, okay, good. So, so yeah, that's what it comes down to is, you know, they get to be up, and then when they get to do their job, and when they're out, they go into work mode. And I explain it to people, like when you and I go to work, we know the difference Monday through Friday.
Right.
We go through our routine. Saturdays, we're done. Like, it's just a whole different mindset. We put that vest on them, and they're all like, okay, I got my job to do, and here we go. And so, yeah.
Wonderful. We have a question come in, and it says, we have a 6-year-old Morkie who is attached to my T1 son. They are inseparable. Is it too late to train him as a service dog? Or is a diabetes alert dog?
Yeah. So typically we start the training with all of our assistance dogs anywhere from 0 to 14 months of age. The reason we do this is most of our service dogs, we put about 2 years of work on them. So if we get them at a year old, they're about 3 years old. That gives them a good 6 to 8 years of working life before we have to think about replacing them. Do we make exceptions to every rule? Of course, because this is the world we live in. And it really depends on the temperament of the dog. You know, yes, the dog can be alerting, but how does the dog react in public is the biggest thing that we have to do. So we have to go and work through, it's not only does the dog have to alert, but the dog also has to be well behaved, or much better behaved than a 2-year-old. You know, no barking, no lunching, none of that stuff. You know, when you're at a grocery store, act a particular way, can't go in the shopping cart, it has to actually walk. And we have I think we have a 6-pound Chihuahua that detects his mom's diabetes, and he sits right here as she's walking through the mall because he can it right there. Anything else you get right, yeah. So it's hard. I mean,
pretty awesome.
Yeah. So it really depends on the temperament of the dog. And the nice thing with type 1 diabetic dogs is you're not limited to size. So a lot of times you work with a lot of mobility dogs, and the dogs have to be a certain height to match their partner's needs. With a type 1 diabetic alert dog, we just need the dog to sniff. And so, yeah, so a lot of individuals will look at the King Cavaliers, the Yorkies, because they have a lot longer life expectancy, anywhere from 12 to 15 years, versus the bigger dogs have a life expectancy of 8 to 10. So.
Gotcha.
But if you have questions or you want to talk to me personally, Tara will leave the information.
Absolutely. If any questions do come in afterwards too, we'll be sure to forward those on to you to see if we can help get those answered. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, just have fun.
Thanks again. I know we were all going through struggles with this pandemic and getting back to our normal.
Yes.
So, I did have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned you were based in Las Vegas. Do you only help families in Las Vegas, or do you accept families from other areas as well?
A year ago I would have said no.
That is fair. That is fair enough.
Only because we had to get creative to do all of our jobs. So we've actually been doing some virtual training. We actually have a team out in Cedar City, Utah that we're working with right now. And so we're testing it out, I should say, because we can do a lot of basic obedience through all of the virtual stuff. But as far as like the public access stuff, that's where it's kind of a little bit more hands-on. But if you have somebody that's willing to take video, then you could submit that to us, and we can, that's the beauty of all this new platform that this whole virtual platform we've learned on is we can upload videos. We've got Zoom accounts now. We've got Google Classrooms. Is that the whole world of our whole, even dog training changed. And I think it's awesome to see the virtual training, because I can't reach in there and take the handle from you. I literally have to learn how to be a much better teacher. To coach you and guide you. You put this in your left hand, this in your right hand, hold the leash like this. And so it's improved our skills as trainers, just because we have to be that much more descriptive. But yes, we've been, I would say, beta testing it to see if we can actually be effective, if that makes the case. But, we're always looking to learn more. And then, sometimes if we are able to connect with a trainer out in the Reno area and kind of talk them through the process, so you guys have that hands-on, then we're more than willing to do that. I mean, our whole philosophy and our culture is to share the information, to help others, because if I've learned it, somebody else can learn it, and then just continue the information. There's no point in me hogging all the information in my brain. If I can share that information and teach others how to do it, then more power.
Adding it to the toolbox.
Yes.
That actually leads into our next question. Monica asked, if we are in Reno with an 8-year-old diabetic, are we candidates? So
we
Monica,
can
go ahead and get you Stephanie's information, and you guys can talk one-on-one.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure something out. If we've got to reach out to trainers in Reno, then yeah. So
all right.
So yeah.
Very okay. Well, guys, that's about it for this evening. Again, if you have any other questions for Stephanie, go ahead and leave them in the comments. We'll be sure to forward those on to her. We will also leave her information and all the information on Michael's Angel Paws, a link to her website, and we can take it from there. So, this topic is always popular, and I know we talked to you a few years ago. We're happy to have you back, and thank you so much. We really appreciate your time this evening.
You bet. Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Good boys.